Epic sages, your home for adventure. Crafting worlds where your story's the center. Gear and tools for the brave and the bold. Your journey begins as the tale unfolds.
Step inside, where the legends begin. Maps, dice, and stories, the magic within. Adventure in mind, we're here by your side. At Epic Sages, where heroes collide. Every campaign, every turn, every fight, we give you the tools, you shape the night. Epic Sages is where you find satisfaction. With adventure in mind and your own passion. We control the board, you control the action. Epic Sages, where legends find traction. From online to in-store, we've got what you seek. Gear for your quest, world so unique. Your heroes rise, we light the way. Epic Sages, your guide through the fray. No matter the path, no matter the game, your story is yours, we fuel the flame. Epic Sages is where you find satisfaction. With adventure in mind and your own passion. We control the board, you control the action. Epic Sages, where legends find traction. From your first roll to battles well fought, we give you the gear for the story you sought. At Epic Sages, the tools are designed with passion and care and adventure in mind. Your world, your rules, your epic tale. With Epic Sages, you will never fail. Epic Sages is where you find satisfaction. With adventure in mind and your own passion. We control the board, you control the action. Epic Sages, where legends find traction. We light the way, you shape the venture. Epic Sages, your home for adventure. From online to in-store, we've got what you seek. Gear for your quest, world so unique. Your heroes rise, we light the way. Epic Sages, your guide through the fray. No matter the path, no matter the game, your story is yours, we fuel the flame. Epic Sages is where you find satisfaction. With adventure in mind and your own passion. We control the board, you control the action. Epic Sages, where legends find traction. We light the way, you shape the venture. Epic Sages, your home for adventure.
Hello. Welcome to episode 15 of season 5. Said that backwards, but that's okay. Anyway, today's topic is a fun one, to say the least. A combo of 3 different topics from the voting. So what it came out was, whose world is it anyway? And it's how to find the best systems for your parties and how to make things feel like your own. Hello, I'm Rook. In our bottom corner there, down at the bottom, is Jared. And we are joined by 3 fantastic star guests that are going to be joining us. So we're going to start off by having everyone introduce themselves, who they are, what they do, where people can find them, all that fun stuff. And I'm just going to go in running order here. So first up is Arianna.
Thank you. I love to be here, and thank you for all you do. I'm Arianne De Rond. I work with dogs. I have experience of 30 years with dog training, and the last 5 years I changed the world around. And I thought, we're trying so hard to train the dogs, but what can they teach us? If we open to that part, we can learn so much from dogs, and that is fitting perfectly with the topic of today.
Fantastic. It's like we plan these things, I swear. We don't, so that's half the fun, but divine timing and whatnot. Next up, Scott. Sorry, before we move on, where can people find you and that kind of stuff? What links and things?
Awesome. I am in Ontario. I am on Facebook, LinkedIn. I have a book, Be the Change for Your Dog instead of the dog changes for you. I have a website, joyfulsupport.com, and I'm on every platform, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok since a week.
Hey, let's go. Yeah. All right, fantastic. All right, moving over to Sky. Sky, who are you? What you do? All your fun stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Sky. I am the founder of Create Your Own Reality Media. I have a podcast myself as well, which is just Create Your Own Reality Podcast, just basically about encouraging, empowering, and inspiring others to live a life they love. So that is really what I like to focus on in my content. But yeah, I do a little bit of branding, photography, that kind of stuff as well. So just trying to incorporate a lot of things to just really help people out in any way, shape, or form. But in terms of where you guys can find me, my Instagram, TikTok, it's all CYO Reality Media. My website is the same thing, so cyorealitymedia.com. And the podcast is Create Your Own Reality Podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well.
Fantastic. And last but not least of our star guest, Mr. Barry.
Hey, Brooke, thank you so much for having me here, having me part of this. This is awesome. Glad to be part of connecting with your audience. Yeah, I do work in media and marketing. I've been doing this work for about 20 years, from kind of my early years in Hollywood to working in national television, Nat Geo and Animal Planet. And that led to a lot of other things. But now I run my own company. I'm where I do video marketing for companies and brands and help them tell stories. Recently, I released a book called "The Unknown Adventurer," and I have a few documentaries that are on Amazon Prime that I'm very proud of. And all of that stuff can be found at endlessmediame.com. That's endlessmediame.com. You can find the book, the documentaries, and a little about my company and myself.
Fantastic. Well, I am super excited to jump into this tonight. So we'll just rip the band-aid off, and get going. So when we first do these shows, we always start with, what do you guys think about the title? So when I say the words, whose world is it anyway? What's the first thing that pops into your head? Just the initial thought. And we're gonna reverse the order at this point and start with Barry. Wahaha.
Horses? I don't know. I actually, that's literally, if I'm being impulsive, I was like, horses. I don't know why. That's what popped into my head.
Horses. Okay, interesting choice.
It's
I gotta.
random.
I,
Random.
I got. I was gonna say, expand on that one a little bit. What horses were the first thing that came to your mind?
Look, I'm a visual thinker, and I also do public speaking as well. And when I'm doing improv, just grab what's come to your mind and make a story of it. And so you said, whose world is it? And I was like, it's horse's world. And I have really genuinely no idea. I was thinking of horses in the wild running through Montana or something free, running free, and it doesn't make clear sense to me why that came to mind. I thought maybe I'll just shock your audience to start off.
Hey, I like that
No,
answer. That's a good one.
yeah,
Go
I
ahead,
can
Jared.
follow the logic fine. I say I can follow that logic just fine. I get it.
Thank you.
I've been around horses. They're pretty sure it's their world. So
Yeah, man, horses are awesome. I've got an amazing. That reminds me of an amazing story of horses in Montana, and I don't want to hold the mic here. I don't know how your process works.
No,
but
go
I
ahead.
can just dish it
We
real
love
quick.
stories. So if you got something that relates to
Oh, I
your answer,
mean,
I'll give you a second too.
on that topic, I'll entertain your audience for one minute on this. I mean, I drove this has been in my 30s. I drove the country for about 3 months by myself in the middle of Montana. Literally driving through Montana, I saw a bunch of horses in the middle of a field, and there's wild horses out there still, in the sage grass, and they kind of graze. And I'm an artist, videographer, photographer, and I decided maybe not as savvy with animals as I ought to be, and I decided to jump over the fence and get a closer shot. Strangely enough, I thought these horses would be spooked, and that me getting closer to them would mean them running away. But I looked like a rancher that was going to bring food to them. And so I ended up having an entire herd of horses. I got about 100 yards out into this field coming towards me. And I start to realize these guys aren't going to stop. And they just keep coming and coming until I'm starting to be surrounded, right? And I'm just slowly walking backwards to the fence the whole time, keeping an eye, mind you, on the horse to the right of me, whose rear end was getting close to the point where it could kick, right? And didn't make sense to me what was happening. If they were wanted food or were being aggressive, I couldn't tell. Fortunately, I survived that. I could have been trampled and killed in the middle of Montana. No one would have known because no one. This was pre-phone, pre all that stuff. No one was tracking me across the country. I would have just been left there. Fortunately, I survived. So there's my horses story, and maybe that's why I was inspired to say horses.
Nice. Okay. Well, Sky, you got a bit to follow up here, but what was your first thought when we go, whose world is it anyway?
Yeah, I mean, mine's gonna be pretty basic. I feel like my first thought is just humans, people that, yeah.
Okay, basic's good. We like that. People like to imagine we run the world, and I think for the most part we do, as much as it runs us. All right, Ariana.
Yes, I love the idea of the horses, and I want to add the dogs to it. I think that it would be a much better world if the animals, the horses, the dogs, but all animals would rule the world, and we could learn so much from it because I don't think there would be any anger, frustration, judgment, comparison, or any of that.
I don't know. There's a couple horses I've met in my life that are definitely judgy AF. Like the hat
But
you're
that's
wearing, they
our
yeet that
human
bitch in the field. Just be
perspective.
gone. Jared, what about you? This is my title, so you get to answer what you think about it. Wahaha.
My first thought, whose world is it anyway? Well, just because I'm the nerd that I am, because it obviously is meant to evoke whose line is it anyway. My first thought is like Drew Carey, Colin Mockery, but
That's
but
fair.
thinking deeper on the yeah, we could do deep thoughts or whatever. We'll get to that, I'm sure. But yeah, my first thought was whose world is it anyway, and I just picture the cast of Whose Line trying to play D&D to hilarious results.
People pay good money for that. I guarantee that would just crush.
Actually, wait, isn't that just critical? Isn't that just Critical Role?
Isn't that just Critical Role? No, it's not the same. It's close though. Anyway, jumping on to talking about the systems that we use, right? All three of us have very unique, all five of us have relatively unique areas where we kind of work in, right? Whereas we kind of do some of the same things along the same lines. We all use very different systems to how we get there, right? And who we influence and how we work with the people that we work with to get to those systems can vary highly. So when I talk about systems that you guys use, can you guys think of a system that is something you could not live without? Something that you use or your the people you work with use pretty much consistently, and if you didn't have, you'd be upset? I'll give you guys like 10 seconds on this one to think.
Is this a pile in where we just jump in?
Well, I'll direct, but if you want to take the lead, fire away.
No, I don't. I'm extremely impatient and uncomfortable with long periods of silence.
Okay, don't worry. We'll get a pattern to it. We're gonna start with Sky then. She looks like she's ready.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would say, especially lately, Riverside.fm has been like my solid ground for just podcasts and podcasting, especially with the addition of guests on my show. It's just been a great way to kind of film those episodes, create the content. Their AI is pretty cool. I mean, I've been dabbling in, just the use of AI in random cases, but they kind of like split up little like shorts for you so you don't have to kind of go in and like split up the whole episode yourself, which I'm sure, as you guys know, podcast episodes can get a little lengthy. So the ability for them to just chop up those little shorts has been super, super helpful. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I would definitely say, just email, of course, I mean, is a staple to just connect with people and have that communication. But yeah, I feel like those two are the big main ones.
Okay, so I'm gonna pile on a question for you with the Riverside. What's your favorite thing about it though? Besides the AI clippings, is there anything else that you're just like, if I didn't have this, I'd be upset?
Yeah. I mean, with that, I think too, it's just I mean, the ability, because like I've tried to do podcasts like on Zoom before, and it's just like audio doesn't like, a lot of the technical things just don't line up right, or like there'll be a lot of like just audio skippings or like where it cut out for a little bit, but everything like has always been smooth sailing. I've never had a problem with anything. Like they can do, or if an episode is over 5 minutes, which, in most cases, of course, they are, like it'll write out all the show notes for you. Like it'll give you just a whole bunch of ideas on things, so you don't have to spend as much time again, like kind of going back through everything and really just going step by step. So it's definitely made everything a little bit easier, especially if I don't have too much time in a certain week to kind of, do all those things from scratch every day. So yeah.
Nice. Okay. Cool. Ariana, what about you? What is the system that you use with your clients, or with that you just use that you couldn't live without?
Um, I would say I use a lot of social media because I am living in the country and it's not very busy here. So I would have never found so many customers as I can go on social media and go worldwide. So that is really very helpful. Could I go without? I think so. I think so
Okay.
too. But I wouldn't reach as much people. Email is very helpful because those social media is not always predictable and reliable. So social email is really important for me to connect as well. I'm doing a lot of speaking on podcasts. I don't have my own podcast, but I'm on a lot of different podcasts. So I'm kind of leaning into the system that other people have.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
Interesting.
I love to hear what Sky said because I thought like, oh, that's a good one. Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice. And Barry, what about you? You've done a lot, and you're still doing quite a lot. So what are systems that you use when you're working on your stuff that is like essential to what you're doing? Something you couldn't live without.
Well, I'm painfully dependent upon technology, maybe more than I'd like to be, but across the board, from your iPhone to your computer. I do a lot of editing. A lot of my work revolves around editing, so I spend tons of time on Adobe Premiere and and working through that just as for a functionality of kind of making. I would have never guessed that the way that I spend my life making food to put on my plate and not literally making food, but making money to pay for food and housing and etc. would be standing in front of a computer for the majority of my day. And I think the it's so useful, and it's kind of great at some level because the work is not that physically challenging, but at the same time, I don't know how often I sit, and this is the conflict with it, how often I sit and go, I hope someday I can unplug completely from all of this. So it's kind of a weird kind of relationship that I guess we all have at some level with technology, where I'm constantly hoping for the day that like I can live off the land and be just as far away from it as possible and literally not be able to be reached by a phone. That and by that I mean a modern phone, not like a wall phone that I grew up with. But at the same time, I'm like tied into it, So it's my source of all things that sustain me. It's kind of it's a weird relationship. I wonder if people felt that way throughout all of time with every job, from farmers to the industrial age and factory workers to now the age of technology and what and our tie to that. It might just be the human experience where whatever sustains you, you're tied, you're bound to almost like a prisoner, and you're always hoping to escape that. I don't know if that's just the human condition or if that's just me and how I feel about technology. But I'm getting philosophical on this topic, but it's a mixture of kind of what I use and what I can't live without, and the kind of conflict with it.
To tap onto your philosophicalness, with that thought of stepping away, you ask a really great question. Is this something that we as humans have had for a really long time, right? Is it something that we're always fighting and pushing against? And personal opinion, I think us as a generation, or the last couple of generations, we'll say the last three, have been a huge transitionary period in humans' history, right? Never that we know of in our history have we jumped so far, so fast, so frequently uh, between what was and what is, whereas lots of people before us had years, decades, centuries to adjust to things and move forward. Sure, they had changes, right? But our transitions in the last, we'll even cut it down to 50 years, have been tremendous, right? We went from VCRs to Blu-rays to streaming completely entirely. You know what I mean? You can watch any movie you've ever wanted just by going on the internet and finding it somewhere, right? You don't have to have a physical copy anymore. It just magically appears in front of you. You know, show that to someone from 100 years ago, they would explode. Um, but so I think we have a unique reason to want to run away from something because it can be scary to change, right? That and human nature has been true. Changing is hard for us. We like things that are the same, but get distraught when things never change. As is a fun contradiction for what we deal with, right? But now that I've had my soapbox moment, I'm jumping down to Jared.
I'm with you.
Jared, now in our stuff for our systems and things, when we talk systems, we're talking the types of games we're playing. Generally, not always, but stepping outside of that, is there a system that you use or have learned to use recently that you're like, I can't live without this. I need it in my life?
Oh man, I think what's been proven just talking to all of us here is we realize that we actually rely on a number of different systems and different aspects of our lives over the course of our lives. Like just me, like as a content creator, I rely heavily on programs like OBS and the editing program Shotcut because I don't like to have Adobe extort me for so much money and all the other things Adobe does. But anyway, I won't vent on Adobe right now. Anyway.
It is getting high. It is getting high. It's up to like
But,
$74 a month, anyways.
Right?
Supplementing.
Yeah.
Too much.
But it's also led to the rise of all these people who are like, if you just want to do something basic, we can put it out for free, you know, and just leave your appreciation monetarily in our tip box. But anyway. So yeah, so programs like OBS and Shotcut have been invaluable to me as a content creator. And then platforms like YouTube and Twitch and Discord even allow us to reach our audiences. And then, like you said, different gaming systems. We gaming nerds have a lot of different systems of rules for every different game we play. And for some reason, we have the capacity to retain them all. Don't ask me how.
Well, let's be honest here. You cannot retain them all. There's a lot.
That's why there's books. But but then we get into even like societal constructs. Like the best example I could think of is I've been married for almost 20 years, and that's definitely a system I can't live without. So yeah, it's just amazing just how many different systems technologically, societally, philosophically that we rely on, different modes of thinking for different thinking on different topics that we just rely on. So that's just my perspective.
Nice. Well, I think all of you have kind of talked a little bit on it, especially towards the end there with transitioning, right, and going from one system to another, right. And the simple question with that one is there a system in transition that you have switched to either recently or a while ago that was a game changer for you, something that you went from like, yeah, this is what I use to this is what I'm recommending to everybody forever. We'll start with Arianne here.
I love that part because like I was 30 years ago when I started training dogs, it was a system that we needed to fix the behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And now everything is, for me at least, is turned around. And instead of trying to fix the behavior, I'm trying to understand my dog, where the behavior is coming from, because it's actually telling me how they feel.
Okay, gotcha. Not a follow up on that one, right? With shows like, oh man, Caesar is the main character in the series, and I can't remember the name, but a lot of his show is spent teaching people how to act around their dog so they would behave better, right? To deal with behavioral problems. Yes.
Caesar Milan. Yes.
That one. Yes.
The dog whisperer.
That one. I don't know why I can remember that, but yes, that show. In that, I think there's a lot of power that comes in when you're transitioning to a better system is finding the best fit for what you need, right? It's not always about changing someone else, and sometimes it's just about changing you, right? And I'll kind of cover that on my next thought because that's a big topic for this one. Anything else that you can think of though? Was there a name for changing your system, or is it just you just naturally transposed where you were to what you are?
I think I called it the awakening with my dog. So they literally awakened me in a way that I thought like, gee, I worked so hard to to change it, but actually I didn't accept that it wasn't their problem, it was mine. And now I do. So now I can work on something and I take the responsibility. And if I change, my dog changes with me. So it's really, really cool. So I think if we go over that system, that changed my whole world. And that is the awakening for me with your dog.
Interesting. Okay. Cool. 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 Barry, what about you? You've been in the biz a hot minute now, so I'm sure you've lived through quite a bit of changes and developments. Is there any that you can think of that is just like it was okay, and then this is amazing?
Well, I mean, as an editor, I think I went through. I started cutting my teeth on Final Cut Pro. I and that's back when they used to bring in the discs, and you'd buy the copyright of a version, and then you would set with that version. And arguably, if you didn't want to update it, you'd just wait till the computer could no longer really support it. And it was nice when they kind of got to a point. It was a mix actually when they got to the point where they jumped to membership based subscription. The nice thing was is that you never had to worry about updates anymore because it just updated itself. But the problem was is that you couldn't just buy it outright for $600 and have it eternally. You were now paying, to your point earlier, you're now paying monthly fee those fees are growing a lot lately. I've seen it across the board on all my memberships. Uh, so that change has kind of been a mix when it comes to systems and getting adapted, and then when Final Cut 7 for you guys, and this goes to your conversation initially about the editing software, which was for me when I jumped over to Premiere, they were the ones that were undercutting the s- the pillars of the institution, which were Avid. Avid was for editing for television, and it was primarily a very powerful tool because it was a shared. You could use it as a shared source, so it was one of the first editing systems that had a shared server that you could edit projects off of. So news networks ate up Avid because the five of us could be working in separate rooms, and I could work from on the morning shift, and one of you could jump back in and pull that project in your edit bay and clean it up, or we could pass it over for graphics or whatever, so it would just kind of migrate from system to system from the server. And so Avid was huge, and then uh, Final Cut Pro came on, and that disrupted Avid, and then Premiere came on, and that disrupted Avid and Final Cut. When Final Cut went to X, became kind of consumer friendly for the average consumer, and and professional editors kind of looked around at kind of the landscape, and we looked at kind of people that were jumping on X as kind of amateurs. It's just kind of funny how this works, the culture of this. And then now what we're seeing is AI is beginning to kind of break in and shift that entire industry up, break all that up. Not to mention what is it? Da Vinci. Da Vinci kind of started disrupting all that, and Da Vinci is now everyone. Now the category probably at some level is the edit. I'm not as aware of the editing systems that you were mentioning, but the editing now they're probably breaking up at some level between who's using DaVinci and who's using kind of AI space, and there's probably a legitimacy culture between the two, legitimacy war between the two groups, and I'm actually, strangely enough to me, even kind of falling behind. I used to be on the cutting edge. I used to when I jumped to Premiere and when I jumped to Final Cut during my training 25 years ago and kind of coming up to speed in editing, I was on the cutting edge. I was beating the pillars of the industry, the people who cut on Avid, because even the film industry was all cutting on Avid. It was just the standard across the board. And now it's, strangely enough, I'm trying to keep up. And to your point, and now we're kind of mincing questions and conversations, but it is fascinating to see the rate at which technology is changing culture. I don't. There's a part of me that wonders if culture will be able to keep up. Because not now we're at a point where we're not doing jobs that are different than our fathers, and our fathers don't understand it. We're doing jobs that are different than our childhood, and the me of 20 years ago doesn't understand how we got here, and I don't know how I'm going to keep up. That's a genuine concern of the rate at which things are changing. I don't even know how I'm going to keep up in the next decade with my industry, because everything is completely, being just destroyed by technology, and I think what we see in the next decade is going to possibly blow everyone's mind, but also be so disruptive to culture and society that I don't know if we'll keep a cohesiveness in the human experience. I don't know if we'll keep this thing together through this, but that's dystopian, and I'm taking this a whole nother direction. But I think I've walked through a couple different systems,
Yeah.
and complemented what we talked about from in the editing space.
No, no, I totally am on board, and I feel like your concerns are valid. You know what I mean? As all of us that are experiencing this as we go along, there's a lot of probability for problems in the future, right? There's also a great probability for great success, right? So as we like to say, we got to roll the dice and see where things land. But so lots of us are not the ones that have to roll those dice. Um,
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I do think that you're absolutely right, and you have to be of the mindset that I'm going to get in front of it. That's the only mindset you can have. You can't, because if you don't have that mindset, you're screwed. At least with the mindset that you're proposing, you might be one of the few that kind of are in front of it. My concern is we've seen a centralization occurring for the last 100 years, from the dispersal of small businesses across the nation to, mom and pop shops getting eaten up by your WalMarts, and then those getting eaten up by your Amazons, and then those getting eaten up by your apps, and you have your things like Uber, and then those getting eaten up by AI. So that consolidation, what it's doing is making a smaller and smaller and smaller group of people who hold the wealth, and lots of times the crux of that is those people feel like they deserve it, like they've earned it, when the truth is sometimes they're just lucky. And so, the biggest challenge that you're saying is, yes, have to keep that mindset. But what happens when literally 10% of the world, maybe 1% of the world has the power to control the other 99% and the money to lord over them? It that is, I don't know if you guys want to run with that or just let it be, but that's that's the mix of that I'm concerned of, based on just seeing patterns and trajectory, because we're building the virtual Tower of Babel, but I'm way out there. I don't know how far you want to take that. I'll stop there and I'll let you run it from there, Rook.
it just sounds like we're gonna have conversations after this because I love talking about this kind of stuff. But to focus on the show a little bit more and get back to Sky because it's her turn. Wahaha. Um, but before we move on, I'm with you. I feel that. So Sky,
Yeah,
jumping
yeah.
over to you.
But go ahead. Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with all of that as well. I mean, I think there's a lot of things, even for myself, that I'm still trying to figure out in terms of systems as to which one would be the best for what. I think one change that I've made recently, which has been a lot better for me, just has been like my website platform. So I used to use Wix. I tried Squarespace for a little bit, and I actually just switched over to Framer, and that has just been a game changer for me. So I'm not really a web developer, web designer at all by any means, but they just the way that it's broken down and the way that you can just kind of customize everything has just been really helpful in terms of getting everything that I want in my website without, having to outsource and pay a lot of money to somebody else. So they also have a lot of great like resources, which has been amazing as well.
Nice. We'll check that out at some point. We use Square, the not Squarespace, but Square, the thing. I think it's technically under Wix.
Hmm.
But they've been easy enough to build. We built our website from the ground up, essentially outside the coding bits, and it's been fantastic for the last however long. You know what I mean? Easy enough to learn, easy enough to use. But that is always one of those things to where you are finding as a business owner. It's great to be like, cool, someone else can build my website, and you look at it and go, I could have done that for way cheaper.
Yeah.
I could build the
Sure.
exact same website for a monthly cost of 30 something bucks, but that saves me 10 grand for the next 17 years or something silly. So gotta love when that happens. But than that, I'm with you. The finding the right website stuff has been cool. But you said Framer, yeah?
Yes.
Cool. All right. Nice. Jared, jumping down to you. Though I'm gonna paraphrase your question, or rephrase your question, I should say, a little bit more. As you were more of the TTRPG Yahoo like myself, what system edition, right, was kind of your big change? You think, as you played a couple different systems, was there any ones that you just were like, it was okay and now it's way better, or the opposite, it was okay and now it's just horrible and no one plays it?
Oh, geez. Oh. Well, obviously the big pink elephant in the room with that one would be Dungeons and Dragons, because they have changed. They are on their now 5th edition, which does not even encompass all the side stuff that they've done over the years. Um, I would say that what keeps repeating itself, except for the case of 4th edition, where they were just trying to mind-numbingly dumb it down. It wasn't a bad game. It just wasn't good for D&D. Just want to clarify. But the big transitional moments was the 3rd edition, when they just opened up modularity and customization, and it was fantastic and wonderful. And for like super dense lore, like in crunch nerds like me, where we could just Lego brick our way to make all kinds of stuff, it was fantastic. But it wasn't fantastic for new players, because then they have all these dense pages of rules. They're like, what's going on? And then we had 4th edition, which overcorrected and spelled everything out for you and didn't really give you a lot of choices. And then we have now this current rule set, which has been tweaked a bit and into technically a new edition, but everything under the hood is essentially the same. That's 5th edition, and I feel like that system has actually struck a good balance between being very approachable for new players, while still having enough substance for the hardcore, like I said, Lego brick players, where we look at all the options. We're like, if we connect this with this, it can do this. So I feel like it makes that happy medium happen quite a bit.
Okay. I as a pod note, gotta agree. 10 years ago, I could not explain D&D in 5 minutes, right? I can now explain how to play D&D in 5 minutes. If you give me a set of dice and a sheet of paper, we can build you something and go from there. You know what I mean? You won't be an expert by any means, but you'll be able to kill some goblins. If you took that to 3.5, it would take you 2 hours to build a character, at a minimum, if you knew what you were doing. Finding it on the first time through the books and things like that, yeah, totally a game changer for approachability for new people. On a negative note for system change, I'll bring up one of mine that isn't technically a TTRPG, but is a tabletop game nonetheless. The X-Wing Starfighter is actually a fantastic little change. Really fun game, you know what I mean? It's little models. Basically, it's chess with Star Wars starfighters, right? Goofy little thing. They do maneuvers. They shoot at each other. You roll dice, yada yada, right? Well, at one point, the competitive scene, because that's a thing, were tired of the rule set that they had, and the company sold to another company, and the new company's like, well, the competitive players don't like how we're doing things, so we're going to change the entire edition to 2.5, and 2.5 killed it. Terribly. And most of the casual players that just like to go to the comic shops and things like that to play games were then kicked out, essentially, because they didn't want to play the new styles of gameplay. And if you didn't have the quote-unquote meta and things that were the ways to win, you weren't going to have fun. Whereas the previous editions, you could play basically anything you wanted, and everything had some viability to it in some way, unless you're doing a terribly dumb tactic. which was half the fun of building lists and putting things together and yada yada. But the new thing was if you didn't have the right chips, you died, right? And then when we do the competitive side of stuff, that happens a lot of the times, right? So when we break a system, um, it is generally because companies, people, things are focusing too much on a singular group of people, right? When systems lose their popularity or lose their pizzazz, whatever you want to call it, it is that because they hyper focused in on one thing. In your guys' stuff, have you guys ever done that to yourself or seen a competitor or something like that do those things to their systems and break their own neck essentially on accident? We'll start with Sky because she looks the most confused. Wahaha.
Um, Shoot, yeah, I was just trying to condense all that in my head.
Sorry, it was a long question. I
Yeah,
apologize.
no, you're good. I mean, I think to kind of, I guess kind of go back to everything as well, just with the fact of everything changing so quickly and just systems like changing so quickly and just of course again technology just changing so rapidly. I think there's a lot of people that are kind of like Barry said, just still trying to catch up or still trying to figure out what works properly for them or what they should be doing versus what everybody else is doing. And I think that can easily cause people to kind of trip over their own feet. I know kind of like even with the website thing, like that's something that I was kind of struggling with as well in terms of, I need to, of course, make my website look presentable, but also have it be functional too, because I know there was a big point in time where that was not really the case, like kind of down for a little while. And of course, it's a good way or one of the main ways that people actually, of course, can find you and the things about you. So just really trying to figure out exactly what it is that not only works for you, but also is again like functional and easy to use and just makes sense for everything that you're trying to do.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Barry, what about you? Again, you've been around a while. I'm sure you've seen some people trip on their own shoelaces trying to do something hyper niched.
Do me a favor, just clarify a little bit
Yeah.
the scope that you kind of opened up with on that question.
Gotcha. Yeah. So to sum it down, have you ever seen a competitor or a friend just like hyper focus on the wrong group of people where they think there's going to be some kind of explosive narrative or something along those lines that like this would be a really good thing to showcase and then it wasn't and it just killed them?
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm kind of, part of me, as you've already picked up, I'm kind of a philosophical person, and I also kind of watch patterns with people, and part of me goes to the social part of that where you see people kind of friend with maybe the wrong socially with a group of people that kind of like totally are destructive for them. I'm hearing you say like take this in the space of technology of kind of getting into uh, groups or spaces or investing in things that kind of take them down a specific road and maybe end up kind of destroying them. I don't. I wish I had. I don't have a great example in this space. I mean, I guess I'm gonna have to. I'll have to come back to this. I don't have a great example of anyone that I know that's kind of picked up technology. I mean, I'm reminded of kind of different times, movies. The famous founder of McDonald's used to sell typewriters. And that kind of like obviously fell short. And he didn't he have like his house was full. His house was full of kind of boxes of typewriters, right? Because he is initially a salesman. He didn't even take off until he was in his 50s. And I think it kind of destroyed his marriage at some level where he spent his entire life savings on like the equivalent of typewriters, let's say that, in the age of computers. And he's, and that would be, I think that's the example that you're looking for. And I'm sure there are a ton out there. Um, I don't have any anecdotes, but I think that McDonald's one is probably a good example of it going wrong
Okay,
and
gotcha.
then going right.
Right, got to the right spot eventually. Just had to switch systems, which we'll talk about in a second. Um, Ariana, what about you? Can you think of anything in your field of work where you just like watch someone just trip, fall, hurt themselves while trying to niche down on something?
Yeah, it's kind of funny to that we got this question because I am in a coaching group with I would say 15 women together, and we're trying to learn the automation and funnels and systems around it and everything. And we talked about this week, and we said like there's so many shiny objects, and we sometimes forget that when that shiny object is there, we all like focus on it, and we forget that we have to do our work too. So there's many shiny objects around us, and it's trying to figure out which one would work for you. But don't forget your own work, because that is the trap, I think, that is around there, that we use those shiny objects to not always do our own work to make the money in.
Gotcha. Yeah, you can't eat unless you work, right? Gotta keep doing what gets you going,
Yeah.
kind of thing. You know what? As a
Yeah, and I know if I start to work on a freebie to kind of create one on Canva, that can be hours just by making it better. Sometimes it's just good. We don't
man,
have to go and make it better.
yeah, I wish we're gonna have to clip that and send that to our business partner, right, Jared? Just it's fine how it is. Go, just accept it. Um,
But that is what is hard, I think, in this world where there's so many shiny objects. And if we see somebody with a real good funnel or something, we're like, oh, I want that too. And then we put all our time in, but we forget that that's not where the money is. It's here. So you can do it. You don't have to do it for hours long.
nice. Okay. Again, yeah, we're clipping that, sending that to Younger later. Jared, jumping over to you, as a man of many means, can you think of a good antidote for this kind of example where you just seen someone like hyper focus on something and just crash and burn?
Yeah, me all the time. But anyway, but it's just on a personal side. Like I'm gonna rapid fire a few quick examples here, good, bad, and all whatever. For a personal one, just as another thing, I haven't crashed and burned yet, but I have noticed as a content creator that ever since I switched to streaming longer sessions of gameplay for my Let's Play channel, my viewership has actually gone down because the algorithm automatically pushes down longer content because they're like, oh no, we need those views, we need those da 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 da. So that's something I'm probably going to have to address at some point before it reaches a critical issue. So I'm not there yet, but it's something I'm keeping my eye on. As far as larger examples I'm aware of, I once again have to point the finger at Wizards of the Coast. I know, me, lecture about Wizards of the Coast, never.
Every
So,
episode.
just briefly, every episode, Wizards of the Coast and its parent company Hasbro, when they took control over games like Dungeons and Dragons, they decided with the advent of like popular stuff like Critical Role and everything Matt Mercer does that they needed to invest and push. Well, unfortunately, the people they put in charge are former Microsoft executives who decided to digitize and monetize everything ad nauseum. And not only that, they issued a stranglehold over the creativity and the creatives that worked with them to the point where anytime anyone was reaching any kind of seniority within their company, they'd fire them so they wouldn't have to pay them any more money. And that's actually kind of famously Larian Studios, who made possibly one of Wizards of the Coast's most profitable products, Baldur's Gate 3, the video game. Wizards of the Coast fired everyone who was working with Larian Studios, and Larian Studios says, you got rid of everybody who helped us make this as wonderful as it is. So you know what? We're gonna step back from working with you guys ever again. So yeah, we will never get another true sequel to that game, which makes me sad. And then Barry talking about Ray Kroc, the founder of McDonald's. It's like, yeah, no, his life was a train wreck up until he got up to McDonald's, and the same is true of Colonel
KFC.
Sanders.
Yeah.
Yeah, Colonel Sanders. Colonel Sanders' life was a train wreck until he started selling fried chicken, and then it took off for him as well. And if I could think of an industry-specific thing as far as the entertainment industry, where it's like it kind of crashed and burned, but at the same time it changed everything. the Star Wars prequels from the film industry side of things, George Lucas, when he started making the sequels, did something the entire film industry thought he was insane for doing. When he filmed episode 1, he filmed it both on film and completely digital side by side so he could do a comparison. And when he realized the benefits of digital filming, the rest of the prequels were shot digitally. No one had ever done that before, at least not seriously. And it shifted the entire industry to now to the point where now you're the niche if you're filming on film. So, and yeah, the Star Wars prequels are for a while were lauded as, oh, these are terrible and all that. But at the same time, George Lucas, just like with the original Star Wars trilogy, changed the way people looked at movies. So crash and burn, but with interesting results.
Yeah, I don't know. As someone who loved those movies as a kid and still loves most of them as an adult, they're, if you know what they're for, they're great. If you're an adult
I do
trying
like
to,
them. I'm just saying that I do like them, but yeah, they were not well regarded in their time.
yeah, if you're an adult trying to make a wannabe kids movie super serious, you need to take a look at what you're doing. You need to find a new system, which segues into our next point of finding a better thing that works better, right? So when we get to that point where we have maxed out our chances, tries, whatever, with how we're doing things, when you guys are working with your stuff, how do you know you've hit your breaking point where you need to try something new? I'm going to start with myself on this one and give you guys a couple seconds to think. But like when I'm doing a new system or an old system that I played a year's worth of playing, we'll say, right? And I've done tons of stories. I've played plenty of games with people we work with, and I just need a mental break from it. I need to step away and be like, all right, I'm gonna do a new system, learn a new thing, because that's how I refresh, right? Um, I know when I start telling the same stories on that system where I'm starting to repeat the same stuff that I've done 4 billion times, I need to go to something new and try something else, right? That's my keynote that hey, I'm hitting the well of old stories. I need to try something different, right? That's my thing. And I switched to a new system, which is great for the company that we own because we do a whole bunch of different systems. That's kind of our fun thing is we teach all kinds of fun stuff. So it works out. I found a system that fits with what we do. But what about you guys? Starting with Barry over here. Where do you kind of have a line where you're like working on something and suddenly you're like, all right, I'm done using this. We're gonna try something new. Because you've talked about you trying to keep up with things. Is there a point where you like have a hard line where like I have to jump, I have to move?
That's actually an interesting question. I think the that's like an ongoing thing is when do you give up on something? You know, in this scenario, I'm going to use this example. I've made 7 documentary films, and I finished my first book, and I'm working on a new book. And on every one of those documentary films, I've come to a point where I've asked myself if, because you end up like this documentary, Reaching Reality, took me 15 years to make. The High, which is a documentary that I shot in the Himalayas, took me 5 years to make. And you look at the amount of weekends that you're working and the amount of extra time that you're putting into it, and you're asking yourself, like, what is the return? Should I keep going? And now I'm working on this new book, and arguably, in this where I'm kind of bringing two conversations together because when I heard you guys revisit the Ray Cook piece and speak about Kentucky Fried Chicken as well, I have to ask myself at what point were those guys like, because I think Ray Cook was in his 50s when he finally broke, when he kind of took off. Please clarify if not, Jared.
It
You
sounds right.
sounded
Yeah.
like yeah. I have to wonder, like, was that guy at any point like, this is insane? I gotta stop trying to invent things. I need to just get under the roof of a company and be safe. And it's that breaking point. And I'm working on this new book about. I drove around the country and filmed and documented the country. This documentary called "Empty America" went during COVID, and I filmed all the empty cities from Los Angeles, Las Vegas to New York and Washington D.C. And in the process, had like this cathartic experience and had this burning bush moment in a sense, and I'm using like a parallel to a biblical reference there, where Moses spoke to God by a burning bush, and you kind of have this enlightenment, let's call it, let more this moment of clarity, that alcoholics say they have this moment of clarity when they come to this moment and they realize that they've got to turn back, that this is destroying their life. So I'm writing this story, and there's part of me that's like, I've done so many projects in my life that I've put enormous amount of time in it, and the return on that time has been not even pennies on the dollar. You know what I mean? And so I don't. I have multiple experiences outside of the systems, outside of technology. So I'm kind of bringing in my life experience into kind of your world,
Mhm.
but I do kind of understand the crux of this question, which is, when do you decide to let something go? I,
Yeah.
I almost get obsessed to the point where I can't really always get clarity on that. Sometimes I get so deep into something and so passionate to it, and part of that is, for me as an artist, is, am I doing this for myself, or am I doing this for an audience and for money? And is this about revenue, or is this about my kind of journey as an artist and what I get from it? So as an artist, that's kind of the crux of that moment where you're like, is this about money? Because if it is, I think it's time to let go. Or is this about my personal journey? And if it is, then I need to keep going forward. Um, and I also would bring into this the hero's journey, which is a mythical tool that you guys can appreciate, right? And
Use it all the
and
time. It's great.
yeah, yeah, and in the hero's journey, what we're talking about right now is the equivalent of the abyss, right? That crossing over moment of, do I keep going forward and become transformed by this and return to the normal world where I started, um, different, or do I go back? Have I gone far enough? Have I taken this journey long enough? And one might say that you never go back. And that would be that you never actually end anything. It just mutates into something different. There is no going back. There is no letting go of things. There are only things that get left unfinished and things that get picked up from, because as soon as you leave one thing, you pick up another thing. Whether that thing is nothingness or whether that thing is a new form of purpose, you're never actually leaving anything behind. So again, I'm the philosophical member in this group. I kind of bring this philosophy to all your questions, which I think is valuable, because that's the core of what you're asking. And then there's the practical, which is what a lot of you, I hear you guys kind of going back and forth on. But that's my kind of space. And so for me, the question is, how do you know? And I think the answer for me boils down to values. Are your values of what you want going to be rewarded at the end of your decision? Then you go forward. But if your values that you want are not going to be rewarded, and you have to decide what those are, and I just outlined two, money and or personal growth, then you kind of maybe go back. So that's not an example, but that's kind of the
I think
crux of, I think, every decision.
I think that's a fantastic example. Actually, that's a very clear line in the sand. Am I doing this for money? Am I doing this for me? And you get your answer. Go forward or give it up. That's a great way to look at that. So I truly appreciate that answer, Jared.
Wanted me, the history nerd, pointing out Ray Kroc purchased the McDonald's Corporation in 1961 after serving as its franchise agent for a few years. He was in his late 50s.
There you go.
Nice.
Love it.
Jumping over to Ariana. What about you? Going back to the original question, do you have a line in the sand for when you are working? Let's say we're working with a dog, right? And you have this little monster is at that point where it is either figuring it out or it's not, and or the person that owns said dog, right? Where do you kind of like, they're never going to learn? It's not worth my time, or is that even an option for you?
Right. Thank you. I just want to say first that Gary, I love the way how you explained it because I'm so inspired by the way how you did that, and I really like the tweak you gave on this. If you bring it back to changing a relationship that you have with your dog, um, the only time that I would give up on that relationship is when people don't get it. And when they don't get it, it's just because they don't want it. That's the only reason. That would be just in the relationship with their dogs. They are not ready yet to see more. They are not ready to awaken. Sometimes it's hard because if you tell people like, "Hey, I think you're not there yet. You're not curious enough to find the other way," to say it polite.
Gotcha. Okay.
And most of those people just go back to the next dog trainer and try to fix their dog again. And then goes and those are the people that 9 out of 10 they get to hear that they have a stupid dog. I don't know if the dog is stupid, but that's a way to say it.
I feel
and
that.
and in my own life, I have 4 kids right now, 4 teenagers. Letting go is a big theme in my world right now. A real big theme. It's a daily thing that I constantly need to ask myself. Is this because they are trying to figure out who they are? Or are they doing this because they need to do it for me? And if they're teenagers, they're figuring out their own world. And it's not up to me anymore to tell them what to do. But I need to take their responsibility as well.
Those are both solid thoughts. And unfortunate truths that all of us get to deal with at one point or another, either as the parent or as the child, and sometimes both. Wah ha 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 ha. But no, I totally
Right.
agree. A lot of times for people transforming and changing and switching systems, it's really you have to make the choice, right? You have to look at a thing and be like, I want to do something different. Until you say that, going back to the alcoholic moment, until you have your come to Jesus moment, you're never going to change, right? There's never that spark, talking bush, none of that. You don't get there until you make the choice to do so. Which is great,
Right.
and
And
I
sometimes,
honestly I could talk about this for another hour because this is again something I love to talk on. But I gotta give Sky a chance to talk before we run out of time here. So Sky, I'm sorry to cut you off
Yeah.
here, but
No,
Sky,
no, no.
what about you? Where is your line in the sand when you're doing your stuff when you're working with your clients? Where is your kind of like, all right, we're done, moving on, point?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, like, I think it's all in the like presentation of like how I actually present the project when I'm initially meeting with the client, especially when it comes to like logos or branding. Like, there's so many people that will just let the client ask for like endless revisions. Like if I'm sitting down with somebody, it's about, okay, cool, like, this is the timeline of the project. Like, we're gonna have, I'll send you the initial things. Just really making sure that they're on board from the beginning, so that way that almost doesn't wind up happening, right? I mean, if they're not on board from the start, then there's not that alignment that you need to be able to work with that person in the first place. So one way or another, there's probably something that's not gonna, be good for either person at the very end. So yeah, I mean, for me, I guess it's a little bit of a backwards answer on that one, just really making sure like everything's kind of set up in the beginning, so that way there kind of isn't a breaking point.
Okay, I mean, having solid boundaries on things, especially when it comes to being a business and being able to, like, look, you get 3 chances before I say I'm done with you. I think that's a healthy business owner thing. You know what I mean? We, have a 3 strike policy in our system where if, you have a younger person that is being a little goblin that is a pain in the butt to deal with, we give them a verbal warning, we give them a written warning, and then they're out, right? If I have to tell you 3 times to stop yelling every time you're trying to talk in character because you're hurting someone's ears or just being ridiculously annoying, like, it's okay for me to say, you're done, be gone. You know what I mean? I don't care if you paid me money. You're being disrespectful to me and everyone else at the table. Be gone with you. And that's a healthy boundary to draw. You know what I mean? And that's a good breaking point. So like that's no shade on that answer whatsoever. Jared, I would give you a chance to talk here, but we are past our hour point, so we're gonna wrap it up really quick with final questions and things. So final thoughts. We'll keep
All
it
good.
semi concise here. What are you guys' thoughts on finding your system and making it unique for the last bit, or just the episode in general? And then we need who you are, where people can find you one more time. This time we're gonna start with Sky.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, for me personally, like, I'm just all about authenticity and just being a unique human being. So I think a lot of that is just inherently me and just finding, again, what works best for me, the systems that make the most sense for either my business or just what it is that I'm trying to do. I try not to be too influenced by, fellow people in the industry or just people that I follow on YouTube, Instagram, because it can get overwhelming and it's definitely easy to fall into those buckets, but yeah, just really trying to take what works and throw away what doesn't, I guess you could say. But yeah, I mean, in terms of, again, where you guys can find me, podcast is Create Your Own Reality Podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcast. My Instagram, TikTok, my website as well, it's cyorealitymedia.com, or on Instagram or TikTok it's just that username there. But yeah.
Fantastic. I was gonna say we go back into the shiny object moments that Ariana was talking about. Ariana, speaking of, we'll go to you next. Final thoughts on where people
Yay!
can find you.
All right, you can find me under Arianne De Rond or Joyful Support. That is the business name. I wrote the book, Be the Change for Your Dog. You can find it on Amazon. You can find it on the website. The website is www.joyfulsupport.com. You find all kind of funnels. You find their free gifts to understand what kind of leader are you with your dog. So we're peaking some awareness, because if you know, you cannot not see it anymore. So now you can change it. Now you can make the choice, like you said, Rook.
Fantastic. Okay, cool. And last but not least, Barry. What about you? Any
Hey
final thoughts on
guys.
this?
Yeah, well, number one, this experience was awesome. Connecting with you guys is great, and being on here with everyone is great as well. I'm happy to be the resident philosopher of this group, and happy to also have learned some new things. You guys brought to light some stuff when it comes to technology and the pace of technology, and also kind of some of the personal and anecdotal stuff that I really enjoyed from each of the guests and the hosts as well. So great podcast, love that. Again, I've written well, I've written one book. I'm on my second book. My first book is called The Unknown Adventurer. It can be found on Amazon Prime. But the easiest way to find myself and all of my work is on Endless Media Me. That's endlessmediame.com, and you can find my book. You can find links to my movies that are on Amazon Prime. I have 4 on Amazon Prime, and all the other stuff as well, and contact information. And there's also, for your audience that's listening to this, if you want a copy of my book, I have a free download of my ebook. If you go on there and fill out the information, I will send you an email and you can have a free copy of my ebook, a PDF of it for yourself for watching this show and following along. Just make sure you put that you saw me on Epic Sages in the comments. So, super stoked to be here. Love it, guys. Thank you so much.
All right, cool beans. And then for our stuff, Jared, what's our brand new code for the month? The month just started. What's our 10% off code?
I don't know. Younger came up with it.
Did he? Wow, we'll make it new one because I honestly still need to update it. So, what is it? What are we doing this month? We're in August. So, we were making fun of the Ides of March, and I was like, no, wait, that's not this month.
Wrong emperor.
Yeah.
Augustus.
So it was like Stabby 907, something silly like that.
I don't know.
We'll look at it later. We're gonna say for now it's Stabby 907 because it's funny. But with all that in mind, if you guys are in the Fairbanks area, you can catch us tomorrow. We'll be at a Dog Musher Hall, which will be fun because we're at the first inaugural Highland Games for Fairbanks, causing havoc, throwing big rocks, all the other fun stuff. At least one of us is going to be in a kilt. And then other things coming up next week is another game week, so we'll have Power Rangers on Monday and D&D on Wednesday. Anything else that I'm missing besides your stuff?
Did we get any new stock in?
New swords. We got swords. There, pictures of them are posted on the Discord, so check that out.
Our
yeah.
Rangers are in Fortnite, guys. You know that.
Oh right, yeah. Just great timing. We're about to finish our stories, and then they're adding all the cool things. We can't tie it in. It's terrible. Anyway, but yeah,
I saw that I saw that in the new season. They're coming down.
they look pretty cool. I had to watch. I'm not much of a Fortnite guy, but gosh dang it, Power Rangers. Anyway, Jared, your stuff. You need anything fun this week?
Nope. Just over on my gameplay channel, Couch Quest Gaming, we are still playing through Hogwarts Legacy and Spider-Man on the PS4. We're almost done with Spider-Man. We've defeated 2 of the members of the Sinister Six, so there's 4 more to go.
Dun, dun, dun. Fantastic. Okay, well, now for our last thing for the night. We have 3 guests here, and we let you guys pick the final song of the night. So I need each one of you to give me a number between 1 and 10.
4.
4. What else we got? You guys can pick different numbers. It doesn't have to be the same.
7.
7. Okay.
10.
10. All right. Well, let's do some math here. Hey, speaking of Power Ranger songs. All right. With Adventure in Mind, have a wonderful time. Bye.
The sun sinks low, paints a canyon in blood. I walk through the fire, I've drowned in the flood. Each step I take, a memory burns of lessons learned and bridges turned. The emerald light on my armor glows, a beacon of hope where the darkness grows. But the stars are heavy, the void unkind. It's a fight to hold the line in my mind. I don't bow to the weight of time. Through fractured worlds I've drawn the line. Dust and shadows guide my hand, a ranger's oath carved in the sand. Dust and shadows, they cling to my name. I carry their weight through the wind and the rain. A lone survivor, but I'm not alone. The fight ain't over, I found a new home. Dust and shadows, but I'm still here. With my fists, my heart, and no room for fear. Steel sings soft as it clears the sheath. A weapon of mercy, a bringer of grief. A pistol's kiss, a whip's embrace. A ranger's justice leaves no trace. The green I wear feels like a flame, burning bright against the endless shame of lives I failed, the ones I lost. A galaxy's weight, a heavy cost. Shattered stars, I've staked my claim. A legacy forged in ash and flame. Dust and shadows, they're all I've known. Yet through the silence my soul has grown. Dust and shadows, they cling to my name. I carry their weight through the wind and the rain. A lone survivor, but I'm not alone. The fight ain't over, I found a new home. Dust and shadows, but I'm still here. With my fists, my heart, and no room for fear. The darkness calls from the void so deep, a haunting song that won't let me sleep. Each star's a whisper, each black hole's a dare. To lose myself in the endless despair. But The green light holds, it cuts through the black. A reminder to keep my demons back. For every shadow that pulls at my soul, I find a way to regain control. Dust and shadows, they cling to my name. I carry their weight through the wind and the rain. A lone survivor, but I'm not alone. The fight over, I found a new home. Dust and shadows, but I'm still here. With my fists, my heart, and no room for fear. So let the wild winds howl and moan. I've made this fight, this path my own. Through the dust and shadows I rise again, a testament to where I've been.